Anyone who's played Valorant knows that each role comes with its own set of responsibilities. Whether you're a sentinel holding down sights and delaying enemy pushes, or an initiator setting up plays for your team, these roles are well defined and understood by the community. The Duelist role is no exception. Their primary goal is to secure that crucial first pick and give their team an advantage for the rest of the round. However, many Duelist players often stumble after fulfilling this initial task, essentially losing the structure in their play to successfully close out a round. Hey guys, it's Konpeki here, and today we're diving into key principles like overheating, ultimates, and economy, topics that often tie into the mistake of losing track of the round. While these are usually seen as mistakes for Duelist players, I'll show you how to turn them into opportunities and use them to your advantage. And before we dive deeper into the biggest Duelist mistake, I want to mention that if you need more hands-on help applying these tips, my team of Radiant and VCT coaches can help you rank up 500 RR in just 10 weeks guaranteed, or will continue to coach you for free until you do inside the Immortal roadmap program. You'll receive over 100 hours of personalized coaching, including hands-on drills, scrims, and one-on-one sessions to ensure you learn everything you need to hit Immortal Plus. So if you're serious about putting in the work with world-class coaches, click the link in the description below to book a free call with me or one of our coaches to see if we'd be a good fit. Now let's get back to the video. As I mentioned earlier, Duelists tend to lose track of the round very quickly after entering a site. But why does this happen and what makes it such a big mistake? In truth, it's understandable. I'd consider Duelist the most stressful role to play in Valorant. Think about the process of how a Duelist entries onto a site for a moment. After you use your own utility or rely on your initiators setting you up, you take that first contact against enemy lines. While focusing on your crosshair, you're also juggling looking at the map for information your initiator might have gathered. You're constantly trying to adapt to spotted enemies and already cleared angles, while at the same time clearing any remaining angles and corners that your enemies might be hiding in. All this is constantly being processed when trying to find that entry pick, which can naturally be overwhelming. Even when you secure that initial frag, the situation often remains hectic. The chaos of taking the site can leave you unsure of your next move, causing vital mistakes in your decision making. Fortunately, you can look for a few telltale signs if you're struggling with this. For example, you might start missing your teammates' comms right after you land the entry kill, or you might find yourself dying shortly after getting it. This leads us to the first principle related to losing track of the round: overheating. We've all been there. You secure that initial pick with a clean shot, and then, just seconds later, you make a reckless, thoughtless play. It happens to everyone. Even top-tier players sometimes give in to that temptation. After all, most of us play this game for fun, and the lure of hitting a flashy clip can be hard to resist. The real issue arises when you subconsciously overheat. Maybe you get a nice pick, and without checking the overall situation, you rush for the next play. Ultimately, you die, leaving your team to struggle in a round you worked so hard to tip in their favor at the start. If you had just stayed alive a bit longer, keeping that numbers advantage intact, you could have helped secure the round. Identifying this habit as early as possible is crucial to avoid squandering your team's lead. But don't just take my word for it. I looked at the data of over 100 Radiant ranked games and found that the team with the most total first bloods ended up winning 79 times. This statistic highlights how significant an advantage being a player up can be, with a 79% success rate in converting the game in your favor. However, simply getting the first kill doesn't mean your job as a Duelist is done. As we mentioned, overheating after that initial kill often becomes the reason why the round slips away and turns into a loss. So make sure that when you do find that first kill, you buddy up and play passively on site to convert that first blood into a round win. This brings us back to losing focus on the current round. On paper, pushing while up 5v4 might not seem catastrophic. If you die, you assume it just evens things out again. But if you look closely at the intricate details of how a round unfolds, you'll realize it's not so simple. Although holding a man advantage is one of the strongest positions in Valorant, other factors like utility, map control, and ultimates also play crucial roles in determining the outcome. For instance, the crucial mistake of losing track of the round can lead you to underestimate your team's actual advantage, especially when factoring in enemy ultimates and utility. When you push deeper into the enemy spawn, you enter uncertain territory. You have no way of knowing which agent you might face next. In some cases, you could hand a free kill to Killjoy and allow her to charge up her ultimate for the retake. Since there isn't enough time to carefully check the enemy team's ultimate points mid-push, you risk giving them a significant advantage to turn the round around. This situation can leave your team in a 4v4 retake scenario, but now the enemy might have a crucial ultimate available. This can even occur when the enemy starts a situation at a 3v5 disadvantage. While the Killjoy ult is just one example, similar situations occur in practically every match. In the realm of ultimates, plenty of agents like Raze, Fade, and Phoenix, to name a few, possess powerful ultimates that can dramatically shift a round's outcome. Now, beyond ultimates, having that extra player alive can help maintain a strong crossfire, secure guaranteed trades, and play the clock more effectively. Losing track of these subtle but critical details can cost your team the round. Even if it happens only once or twice per game, it can quickly snowball your economy out of control and change the entire match's trajectory. The good news is that the solution is straightforward. Preserve your life whenever you do have the man advantage. Yes, it sounds like a basic Valorant fundamental, and yes, it might seem boring, but don't worry. We'll discuss when pushing deep and overheating can actually be beneficial later in the video. But before that, let's talk about how losing track of the round also prevents your teammates from snowballing their econ lead. When you win a round, your team is guaranteed a minimum of 3,000 credits, enough to buy a rifle in the next round. If you lose your life unnecessarily, it can be a huge waste of resources. Your goal should be to build and maintain your economy in your favor. For instance, maybe you can buy a rifle next round, but what happens if your team loses that round afterwards? Will you still have enough credits for the round after that? If you found yourself consistently winning rounds, yet still struggling to afford a proper buy, this might be one of the reasons. Good econ management is crucial, because trading rounds can quickly spiral your team's finances out of control. When you hold a numbers advantage, you control how the round plays out. Additionally, remember that losing a round resets your loss bonus. Keeping your econ in check can prevent forced eco rounds that lead to getting steamrolled. So before you take that risky fight, hit the tab key and check if you have enough money to handle potential losses. While the solutions to staying on track align closely with Valorant's unwritten fundamentals for securing success, there are moments where embracing these so-called bad habits can actually work to your advantage. However, keep in mind that these scenarios are far more nuanced. It's generally safer to stick to the basic plays to ensure you convert rounds consistently. And this is exactly why we often see pro players default to simpler, more reliable strategies. But if you're looking to vary your gameplay and keep opponents guessing, even a tactic like strategic overheating can help. Let me explain. Imagine this scenario. You're rotating to the opposite site after your team loses control of it. As you approach, you suddenly encounter an enemy jet deep already in your spawn, catching you with your knife out. She probably should have never been there, and she lacks direct teammate support. Yet, her reckless aggression was so bad that it was almost good because it was so unexpected. When this occurs once, you might feel annoyed or slightly tilted, but if it keeps on happening, you'll start rotating more cautiously with your gun in hand at all times, moving slowly and perhaps even wasting time and utility clearing out odd angles. Duelists excel at these aggressive plays because their movement abilities enable them to reach unexpected positions quickly. While this kind of push looks risky and usually is, mixing up the game's tempo forces your enemies to remain extremely cautious. They might spend more time methodically clearing areas or even waste valuable utility on spots that rarely matter, all because you conditioned them through your earlier plays. Often, deciding to push aggressively comes down to instinct. You might subconsciously recognize patterns in the enemy's rotations or notice small opportunities based on how previous rounds played out, prompting you to capitalize on them with a spontaneous push. A safer approach involves comparing your team's resources to the enemy's. If your team holds a substantial advantage, maybe you're on an eco round and want to force areas from the enemy, or you have a strong numbers lead, then pushing might be a calculated risk. By demonstrating that you're willing to push deep, you instill fear in your opponents. They'll remember it in subsequent rounds, hesitating to rotate freely or move carelessly around the map. Once you understand the round dynamics, consider involving a teammate when pushing into enemy territory. Most plays in Valorant are more successful when done together rather than solo. Coordinating with a teammate increases your chances of winning duels and capitalizing on tempo changes. Some maps make coordinated plays easier than others. After all, a teammate needs to be in a position to be able to join you, which might be hard if you're pushing through, let's say, Heaven. But if we take a look at a map like Pearl, defenders often rotate through 3 or even 4 lanes if they choose to flank. This massively increases the likelihood of encountering a 2v1 confrontation in your favor. In the worst case scenario, you trade out an enemy defender and gain significant map control. While staying aware of the round's status is essential, also remember that the map's layout should guide your decision-making process. Earlier, we discussed avoiding scenarios where the enemy builds their ult points. But what if you flip this concept around? In Valorant, death grants you 1 ult point. Sometimes pushing with the goal of charging your ultimate for the next round can also be worthwhile. After all, whether you score a kill or not, simply dying pushes you closer to unlocking your next ultimate. What is important to keep track of in this instance though, is the duelist you're playing. Of course, some ultimates are better than others, especially in the duelist category. But while a Reyna ultimate isn't necessarily going to guarantee you value in the next round, a Yoru, Raze, or Phoenix ult might just be worth overheating for, as you'll be able to strategize more easily and maximize your chances of winning the next round with them. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.